1985, Omaira Sanchez and the Armero tragedy. Trapped in the murky waters and debris, Omaira Sanchez's wide, dark eyes held an unbearable mixture of pain, innocence, and acceptance. The volcanic mud had buried her town, and now she lay, helpless, for days, comforted only by rescuers who could do little but offer words of love. Her tragic fate would become a haunting reminder of both the power of nature and human vulnerability. 1860, a lady in a litter, Brazil. The woman reclines in her luxurious litter, fanned by the humid Brazilian air, while two freed men bear her weight, their borrowed hats and clothing, carefully chosen for the stage photograph, tell a story, one not of servitude but of transition. Once enslaved, now free, they pose not just for the camera but for history itself. 1920s to 1930s, the Amasunzu hairstyle, Rwanda. Each intricate crest of the Amasunzu hairstyle told a story of pride, of identity, of readiness for marriage. The young women who wore it carried themselves with confidence, knowing that their hair signified beauty and cultural strength. The tradition, passed through generations, was more than fashion. It was a statement of heritage. 1950 to 1990, apartheid signs, South Africa. Cold, unfeeling signs loomed over public spaces, declaring who was white and who was non-white, enforcing an invisible but crushing barrier. The humiliation of being turned away, the anger of a mother explaining to her child why they couldn't enter. These were the daily wounds inflicted by apartheid. The signs may have been printed in simple black and white. 1977, Emperor Jean-Bedel Bokassa's coronation. Seated upon his absurdly ornate golden throne, Jean-Bedel Bokassa gazed down at his kingdom with an inflated sense of grandeur. The extravagance of his self-proclaimed empire stood in stark contrast to the struggles of his people. The weight of his crown was nothing compared to the suffering of those under his rule. 1870 to 1918, Africans in the German Imperial Army. Clad in military uniforms that were not their own, African soldiers marched under a foreign flag, fighting wars that were not theirs to begin with. Their loyalty was tested on battlefields where their courage was acknowledged, but their humanity often ignored. They were warriors, but also pawns in an empire's game. 1904, a slave father gazing at his daughter's severed hand and foot. Nsala's eyes, hollow with grief, stared at what remained of his daughter. She had been punished for his failure to meet a rubber quota, a brutal, incomprehensible crime. The severed hand and foot were not just a message to him, but to all who dared resist. The cruelty of the Belgian Congo was beyond words, but his sorrow spoke volumes. 1954, mine worker x-rayed for diamond check. The miner stood rigid, his dignity stripped away as he was scanned for hidden diamonds. The harsh gaze of the radiologist was colder than the x-ray machine. These men spent their days clawing riches from the earth, treasures they would never own, wealth they would never touch. 1907, slave shackle removed by a British sailor. The iron shackle fell away, clattering to the floor, its echo a whisper of long years stolen. The sailor's hands trembled slightly. Was it from the weight of history or the silent gratitude in the freed man's eyes? Though one bond was broken, the scars of slavery would remain far longer. The legend of Holger Dansk. Beneath the stone, the warrior sleeps, waiting. The Danish legend tells of Holger Dansk, who will awaken when Denmark is in peril. His hand rests on his sword, his spirit unbroken through the centuries. In times of uncertainty, the people still whisper his name, hoping that someday the warrior will rise again. A real shrunken head, Ecuador. Once, this head belonged to a living soul, someone with dreams, fears, and a family. Now, its skin, shrunken and leathery, remains as a testament to the Jivaro people's ancient rituals. What did the eyes once see? What stories would the lips have told? Now, silent forever, It is a relic of a world long past. 1956. The USS Nautilus on the Hudson River. As the colossal submarine cruised past the Upper West Side, pedestrians stopped in their tracks, their eyes wide with amazement. A marvel of technology gliding through familiar waters. Something so ordinary, yet so extraordinary. For one brief moment, the city held its breath, watching history. Cabinet ministers lined up for execution after a coup d'etat in Liberia, 1980. On April 12, 1980, Samuel Doe led a military coup, killing President William R. Tolbert Jr. in the executive mansion. 26 of Tolbert's supporters were also killed in the fighting.
On February 8, 1943, Nazis hung 17-year-old Lepa Radic for being a Yugoslavian partisan during World War II. When they asked her the names of her companions, she replied, "You will know them when they come to avenge me." Radio broadcasting became popular in the early 1920s, after advances in technology made during the First World War. Weekly musical broadcasts started in 1919, and by 1922 there were over 500 stations nationwide with daily broadcasts. Young people were encouraged to build their own crystal radio receivers, complete with headphones, to listen to the new craze. This 1921 picture shows a Chicago policewoman checking for a violation of the bathing suit length laws. Back then, your suit could not be more than 6 inches above the knee. Of course, these rules only applied to women. Men were free to wear trunks cut high on the thigh. This state of affairs lasted until 1946, when a French mechanical engineer named Louis Reard invented the bikini, although it didn't catch on until the 1960s. In 1941, the photo on the left was taken of Soviet soldier Eugen Stepanovich Kobitev on the day he left to go to war. The photo on the right was taken in 1945 after the end of the war, just 4 years apart. Sergeant Stubby, the most decorated dog of World War I, photographed wearing his military uniform and badges in circa 1920. The RMS Titanic passenger liner in Southampton, England just before it left for its maiden voyage to New York City on April 10, 1912. The Titanic sank after striking an iceberg in the early hours on the 15th of April, in which an estimated 1,500 died of the 2,200 passengers and crew on board. The explosion of the Hindenburg in Lakehurst, New Jersey, on May 6, 1937, spelled the end of passenger travel by Zeppelin-style airships. That might not have been the case but for this image, as well as video taken of the tragedy. Terrifying in its magnitude, and the presumed deaths of many aboard, the image was among the first to show a real failure of advanced technology, highlighting the dangers of the future's